Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for High Velocity Radio.
Welcome to High Velocity Radio. This is Lee Cantor here, and this is going to be a great episode. Today we have with us Keren Shamay with Insperity. Welcome.
Thank you, Lee. I'm happy to be here.
Well, before we get too far into things, tell us about Insperity. How are you serving folks?
So Insperity is a human resource outsourcing company. Basically, what we do is we come into small and medium-sized businesses and we make them look and feel like Yahoo or Google or IBM. So we can help them become a top employer in their field.
Because I would imagine most businesses, they're doing whatever they do, right? Like they're a mechanic or they're accountants or whatever their business is, that's what they're doing every day. They're not, then they grow a little bit. Now they got to be an HR company too. And that's not really what they signed up for a lot of the times, right?
A lot of the times it's not what the business owner signed up for. And it ends up taking up so much time because to stay on top of the laws alone keeps them awake at night. I have so many clients who, instead of going to bed at 9 or 10 p.m. like they should, they're up until 2 o'clock in the morning with problems and then worrying about the problems afterwards.
Because now they're doing this kind of administrative paperwork and they're dealing with new laws or regulations that they don't know kind of what they don't know, right? This is all way over their head.
Way over their heads, plus the benefits. A lot of people want to give their employees really good benefits, but if you're doing it as a 10-person company, the prices that you get are just going to be insane.
So that's where Insperity comes in, right?
Yep, that's where we come in. Our group is close to 500,000 lives. So the buying power that we can give and the lawyers that we have on hand researching all the laws, we can make their life so much easier. They don't have to be experts anymore. They can let us be the experts.
Now, where's that point of inflection where that person, maybe they started as a solopreneur, maybe they had a couple people involved, and then it's gotten to the point where they're now feeling that pain of, man, I'm spending a lot of time on this other stuff that really isn't helping me grow the business, and it's kind of getting in the way of attracting new talent. What's that point of inflection where Insperity is the right fit?
So we see a couple of points of inflection. The first one generally lands around 5 employees, because up until 5 employees, what you have is a business owner who has gotten their brother, their sister, their kids working, whichever sucker they can find in the family to help them grow the business. It's all family run. And at around 5 employees, that's when they need to hire a receptionist or somebody who's no longer family, and that creates challenges and new laws that you have to think of. So sometimes around 5 employees, but a lot of the laws start changing at around 15 employees, where now you're seen as a serious business and different laws apply to you than applied when you had 14 employees. And so that's where the bigger change starts to happen. They need to start paying attention to a lot more things.
So now I understand there's the legal standpoint that you got to do all the tax stuff, right? There's all those kind of details that can bite you if you're not really kind of on top of it. But There's also kind of the transfer of knowledge part where someone's got to explain how to do these things. Does Insperity get involved in that side of the business at all, or is it more kind of the rules and regulation side?
No, Insperity actually is a full service company where start to finish, we help with the training and development. We help with exit planning if they need it. We help with succession planning. As far as onboarding employees, we help everything. If it touches an employee, we help with it.
And then is this a situation where I got to pay and get a consultant to come in to really understand this, or is this software as a service? Like, how is it? How are you working with the business owner to get this work done?
So we are we'll call it service with a software. Think software with a service. A lot of people know that model. We have all of the software necessary, but we pride ourselves on our service. So a business owner who signs up with us gets a dedicated team of 6 people. They have an HR specialist, a payroll specialist, a human resources manager, an onboarding specialist, a client liaison. They get a dedicated team of 6 assigned to their account. That team gets to know their account backwards and forwards, and that is who runs them. We don't necessarily go on site. Sometimes we'll go on site if it's absolutely necessary, but we're running it remotely. So kind of like an IT outsourcer, they're not going to be on site running all of your computers. They have the databases, they have everything. And if on site is necessary, then they go on site. But otherwise, we're just a really big toolbox that whoever within the company is handling HR can come pull from.
Now, you mentioned that you work remotely. What if I have remote workers? Do you help with that as well? Or is that, it's got to be people who are actually physically in my location?
Well, assuming they're W-2 employees. So we handle all W-2 employees. We can help pay 1099 employees. And that's a very important distinction business owners need to make. Are we talking about W-2 employees or are we talking about 1099 contractors? So we can do everything for everyone. And we are a national company and we have many multi-state employees and we have people who work from home. We have companies where everyone is on site. It doesn't matter to us. If you're my client and you have employees, I can help take care of them.
Now, you mentioned that one of the advantages of working with Insperity or a firm like Insperity is that now I get to offer kind of big company level benefits to my folks that I probably couldn't have afforded. Can you talk a little bit about what those different types of plans look like and how it's going to, do you have kind of a story that you can share maybe of how that, because of that kind of got me some talent that maybe I wouldn't have been able to get to without it?
Absolutely. So a lot of younger tech companies or companies that are looking at not necessarily the millennials. Millennials aren't so excited about health and 401k at the moment, but we'll say people in their early 30s, they start looking at what are you offering as an employee, as an employer? Are you offering me health insurance? Are you offering me dental and vision? Is there an HSA? Do you offer 401k? And I have a lot of companies that come talk to me because they want to grow. And growing with random employees is one thing, but growing with top level talent is another. And in order to attract top level talent, those people are going to be expecting that you offer health, vision, dental, HSAs, FSAs, 401ks, disability, tuition reimbursement. Insperity throws in adoption assistance as well. So as a business owner, the question is, how fast do you want to grow and what level of people do you want? And do you want to attract, retain, and maintain them? Or do you just want them in the door and then turning around because you don't offer the best scenarios? I have a client who just signed on. They are an MSP, a managed service provider, an IT provider. And that's what they're looking at. They want to grow very quickly. And they realize that the top people in their field are going to be looking for companies that offer all of the benefits that they can get at IBM or Yahoo or Google. So if I'm one of those people, why would I consider your 20-person company to work for when I can easily go to IBM and get everything plus the kitchen sink thrown in?
Now, I'm sure when you're starting to talk to your prospective clients and you tell them this, their heads must explode, right? Because this is something that they probably thought was so far out of reach that it wasn't even possible. Yes, that is one of the challenges that I face, that we all face, is many business owners don't realize that this exists, that it's a possibility. So part of the education is once I'm in the door, let's talk about what I can offer. But beyond that, they don't even realize that it's a possibility. So how do I get their attention and explain to them, no, these services do exist. There's a big difference between what each company can offer, but it exists, and you have the ability to buy health insurance in a group of 400,000 people instead of just 10 people and see huge price discounts on that because of the big buying power that's afforded. Now, what's that typical kind of, what spurs the conversation? Like, what's the pain that this prospective company is having where they're like, you know what, there must be a better way to do this. This is crazy. Like, is there something that's a trigger for them that says, let me just research this. There has to be a better way somewhere.
For some companies, it could be that their health insurance is just becoming astronomical. They're paying through the roof, and they think that either I need to cut back or water down or get rid of benefits altogether, or I'm going to talk to someone who says they can offer. I have a law firm who's a client who said that they've hit 50 employees and they're ready to start growing beyond the family feel of it. It's not all family working for them, but they've maintained a culture of we're a family and we're doing everything internally. But in order to scale and grow their practice to multiple states, they realize that they need to be competitive. And how do you scale sustainably as a small business owner? It's very hard. Small business owners aren't experts on training and development or the human resource laws or everything that goes around payroll or Section 125 testing when it comes to the health and the benefits that they're offering. So at some point, an owner looks at themselves and says, do I really want to be the expert at this, or do I want to bring in a partner that I can trust and let the experts take care of what they do so that I can just run my business and do what I started off doing?
And that 50 number is kind of a big number, right, in business? 50 employees?
50 is, yes, 50 is a big number. But interestingly, what's considered a small company is shifting upward now because, yes. So the 50 number is very big as far as the health insurance.
Right. Doesn't that trigger some things, right? Once you go from 49 to 50?
Yes, you become an applicable large employer, and that definitely affects what you must offer your employees versus what you don't. Something that business owners aren't aware of is if you're a business owner and you have multiple companies, each well under the 50 mark, but altogether your umbrella holds 50 or more, you are an applicable large employer. So some business owners think, this company only has 13 people and this company only has 20 people. It doesn't matter. No, once your entire umbrella houses at least 50 people, then you are subject to those laws. And if you get caught not performing to those laws, that's a big problem.
Now, when you've been doing this kind of work, what's been the most rewarding story you can share about maybe taking someone that maybe was a little nervous about taking this step? Because this is kind of saying I'm growing up kind of step and you're not your own little entity anymore. But then this helped kind of propel them to another level.
Well, the most impactful story that I can think of is I had a client who had about 25 employees and was running everything on their own. They brought us in because they felt like it was becoming a little too much for them. And once they were onboarded, I think I got the call after their first payroll ran. And the message was, this is the first day, and that was on a Friday. So the message was, this is the first day that I've been able to come home and spend time with my daughter while she was still awake and go to bed at 9 p.m. And I slept all the way through the night. When you hear things like that, you realize business owners aren't just running a business and making money. They struggle and they suffer and they forego time with family because they're trying to do it all alone. So when someone tells me I was able to spend time with my daughter for the first time in 5 years because I didn't have to worry about any of this, that's huge. You can't quantify that.
Yeah, I don't think the lay person understands the sacrifices that business owners make personally in order to kind of make this dream come true that they're trying to do. And that's a great example of that. It's one of those things that it's not obvious, but once you tell someone, it makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Now, part of your background is pretty holistic around business, and you talk about culture and the importance of culture. Does Insperity touch on that, or is that kind of your secret sauce when you're working with clients?
Insperity as a company does touch on that. The rule with any business, I don't care what size it is that there's always a culture. It's either by default or by design. And most business owners, they default to whatever culture happens to show up because they're being who they're being and the employees are being who they are. And what Insperity does is we actually come in and we sit down with the decision makers and plan out the kind of culture that they want to have. Then we go to the employees and we take a temperature to figure out what culture they actually do have. And in most cases, it's a night and day difference. What exists versus what the decision makers think exists or want to exist are completely different. So once we know what exists today and where they want to go, we plan out with them. We actually create a roadmap of here's what we're going to do and here's how we're going to change it and here's where you will end up being a top employer.
And then once that's implemented, is this something that you just flip a switch and then this happens, or is it something that just kind of gradually evolves once you kind of identify what that true north is?
It has to gradually evolve because we're dealing with human beings and human beings are resistant to change. And depending on the kind of culture might not be trusting. So depending on who the decision makers have been and how they've acted, a lot of people might not necessarily trust that this is really where we're going. So it's a growth process. It doesn't have to take long. But because you're dealing with human beings, you can't just come in and say, okay, yesterday we were Disneyland, today we're Midas, right? It doesn't work that way. So we build it out, we create a roadmap, and then we start implementing it step by step to make sure step one is in place. Did it take? Okay, step one took. Now let's go to step two. Did that take? And slowly transition, well, as quickly as possible, but it is a transition so that everyone can buy into the process and the people can see that no, management really is on board depending on what had happened prior to us coming in.
Now, do you have any advice for that business owner to kind of help them create, if they were to do this on their own, how to create that culture that is lasting and that really is kind of mission oriented rather than kind of transactional and burning and churning through employees?
Honestly, if a business owner has something like that, my best advice would be find an expert to help you, because a lot of times the employees are not going to be willing. If it's a bad culture, the employees are going to be afraid of giving feedback, and you can't find out where you are until you get honest communication. So there has to be an outside party that comes in and reads the temperature. Somebody who isn't vested in it going one way or another and who employees don't feel like will go back and report immediately and get them in trouble. So I think as far as building a culture, they can try to tough it out and make small changes, figure out where you want to go, lay out a roadmap, and then start implementing pieces. But the hardest part is getting a true temperature from your employees. And if you have a culture that is toxic, that won't be easy because people will either not respond or tell you what they think you want to hear. And that doesn't help at all.
And it's difficult to underestimate the importance of culture, right? I mean, with the right culture, you can do amazing things. And with the wrong culture, just every step is difficult.
Well, culture is everything. Happy, healthy employees come to work. They give discretionary effort. They make the company run. The company sinks or swims off of happy employees. And so culture is everything. The employees are everything.
Yeah, that's a great lesson for folks out there. And it's important to invest in your people because your people can really take you to levels you can't even imagine if you do things right.
Yep, absolutely.
So now if somebody wanted to learn more about your work with Insperity, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
There are two ways. My phone number, 682-233-1412. I also, if they want basic information without necessarily talking to someone right away, they can go check out my YouTube channel. If you just look up Keren, Keren, 2 E's, last name S like Sam, H-A-M like Mary, A-Y. And the YouTube channel is called PEOs Behind the Scenes. I have a whole bunch of informational videos on there that they can start educating themselves on. But I am happy to answer any questions.
And the PEO is a professional employer organization?
Professional employer organization, yes.
And that's what kind of Insperity is classified as?
Yes. Insperity was the company that founded that industry. So we are a professional employer organization.
Good stuff. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. You're doing such important work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate the time here, Lee.
All right. This is Lee Cantor. We will see you all next time on High Velocity Radio.